Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Laura, and today I am going to wrap up my Manga Readathon experience, I guess. Unfortunately, I don't have a vlog to share with you, but there were a few people who did make videos, and if you are still making a video about your experience with the Manga Readathon, let me know in the box below and I will add you to a playlist that I have created. I've already added a few people to that playlist, and if you're interested in seeing how everybody did on the Manga Readathon, please go and check that out. Some people vlogged, some people didn't, but it's just really interesting to see what everybody was able to accomplish during the week. Jen and I were so pleased and excited and like just thrilled to see how many people were actually participating, how many people were excited about participating, having fun doing this thing that we had created, and we were just like, we had so much fun seeing everyone's participation in it. And yeah, it was just a really fun week for us, and I think a fun week for all our participators. We had quite a lot of vocal participators, and I'm sure that there was a lot of quiet participators out there as well, who weren't participating on Instagram and Twitter. So we were just really pleased that so many of you wanted to join. We originally thought maybe 1 or 2 people would join us, but there were so many of you, and we're just like really grateful. Thank you so much for joining us in this. So for the Manga Readathon, our challenge to you was to read as much manga as you could in a week. It was read anything really that you wanted. It could be 1 volume of manga, or it could be 40 volumes of manga. It's just really more than you normally would read. We also set up 25 challenges in a bingo spread sheet, which many of you attempted to accomplish, either getting bingo, or many of you already accomplished a full blackout, which was amazing to see, especially how early some of you were accomplishing this. I did also accomplish blackout, but it was like 1 hour before the end of the readathon, and it was just like, oh my goodness, read faster, Laura. I had to change out some of my books because they were too long and I knew I wasn't going to accomplish it in time. I did create a sheet, but unfortunately our printer wasn't working last week, so it's just an ink thing. I need to buy more ink, but since ink is expensive, I decided to just write it out by hand in my bullet journal, which is apparently a thing that I do now. And I basically just color-coded each day as I accomplished the titles. So I started with the blue, I went to green, I think the 3rd day is this light blue. Then I did pink, the dark orange, the light orange, and then the light green. And so that's basically what my reading was. It was kind of all over, and it took a while to actually get bingo. I was just sort of, I don't know, mentally resisting reading the nonfiction title. I think it was on my TBR every single day. So it took me a little bit of time, but I think it was pretty, it turns out pretty in the end. So I was glad that I did it this way actually in the end. I might do something similar for next year. We also participated or created a treasure hunt. So we had a number of challenges. You can see them here. We had 30 different challenges of pictures to find in the manga that you were reading, and you could share them with us. And there was a contest that was associated with it, so if you participated, you were entered once into the contest. We had a few people who participated really well and found nearly everything. I don't think anybody found all 30 items, but some of you found quite a lot, and we were really excited to see so much participation in this. We thought it was really fun to do ourselves. Like, I was really enjoying finding all the things, and it's just something that I personally notice when I'm reading manga. I was like, oh, there's something that's really common in manga, and you know, it's something that you normally would see in the background, or just a common theme that you see often. So it's just kind of fun that, you know, no matter what you're really reading, you can find these things in manga because they exist. So I thought that was a really fun thing that we did, and I will announce who won the treasure hunt treasure box at the end of this video. And that's pretty much what we did for the readathon. It was mostly those 2 things. There was a little bit of chatter on Twitter, and people were posting pictures of the books that they were reading, and it was really interesting. There were so many people who were participating from like all over the world, which we were thrilled about. We loved seeing all of the manga, especially the manga hunt pictures with different languages in the text. Like that was really fantastic. Yeah, so we just had so much fun, and we're really grateful that you decided to participate with us. So I'm just going to show you all of the manga that I ended up reading during the week. I ended up getting through 30 volumes of manga. I originally had planned to read 35 because I was going to read 5 a day, but I kind of faltered in the middle there. I had some errands that I had to do in the middle, and unfortunately that meant I was reading a little bit less. Also, I was napping a lot. I just kept falling asleep. Every single time I go into my sister's room, I literally sit down on her chair and then I'm asleep in seconds. I don't know, maybe I'm getting old, or maybe I'm just really tired because I stay up all night. Anyway, I was napping a lot and didn't get a lot of reading done those 2 days. But I did read a lot overall, and so I will show you what I read. So just like in our suggestion video, I'm going to go through all the titles. I'm going to start up here in the left-hand corner, move across, and then just tell you all the books that I read going across. So the first category was to read a meta manga, or manga about manga or anime or fan culture or just something that's remotely related. I ended up choosing Kingyo Used Books Volume 1 by Seimu Yoshizaki. This is actually about a used manga shop and mostly about people rediscovering manga, and it was wonderful. It was one of my favorite things that I read this week. The next category was a battle manga, or a manga involved, or that involves a battle in some way. It didn't have to be strict to the genre. You could read pretty much whatever you wanted. So I chose Barrage by Kohei Horikoshi. This is the same author as My Hero Academia, and this is a 2-volume series. So if you're interested in trying out My Hero Academia, or you just really like Horikoshi, you might want to check out this manga. It was a pretty fun start to a series. It's mostly a kind of a Prince and the Pauper retelling, but more magical. For a 2017 release, I ended up picking up Dreaming Sun by Ichigo Takano. This is volume 1, and it was just released in English here this year, very recently. This is the same author as Orange, which is really popular. It's gotten quite a bit of popularity. This was sort of a pretty average shoujo manga for me. There are better titles out there, in my opinion. I will continue buying it, but it was sort of just okay. It's not very memorable, and I don't remember the plot of it anymore, and it's only been a couple days, so we'll have to be rereading this one a few times to get it to stick. For my nonfiction title, I actually had planned on reading this the first day and ended up reading it the last day. It just kept getting pushed back and back, and I don't know why, but that's Nononba by Shigeru Mizuki. I don't know that this is a fully nonfiction. This is essentially a autobiographical work of his childhood and his relationship, or just really about Nononba, who is a local old lady that was just very close with his family and kind of encouraged and inspired his love of yokai, which is what he is primarily known for drawing in his manga. It's just like a really sad and sweet tempoed story, and it was just really lovely to read. And you can see here that, like his style of his characters is very cartoonized, is very stylized, but when you're reading through this manga, you get so caught up in his incredibly beautiful and detailed backgrounds. He's such a beautiful landscape artist, and he does such beautiful architectural drawings. Like, they're beautiful, and I just got really caught up in it. Took me a lot longer to read than I had expected because I kept just sitting there and staring at the backgrounds and the panels. Yeah, so it was really beautiful, but it's also just a really sweet and kind of sad biography, and it's really easy to read. It's not like a real fact-giving type biography. It reads really much like fiction. For romance, I ended up reading So Cute It Hurts by Goiki Yamada. This one is a cute, sort of gender-bended type story where there are twins. One's a boy, one's a girl, and they have decided to switch places, and they both end up falling in love that first day that they switch places, and so they have to continue doing it. It's really cute. I really enjoyed it. This is a story that I was not super interested in, and then I keep hearing little tidbits about it, and I was just really curious about it. So I picked this one up from the library. It was one of my library reads, and I enjoyed it. I think this will be joining my collection pretty soon. For a manga with green on the cover, I ended up picking up Dragonball Super by Akira Toriyama and illustrated by Toyotaro. This was an okay manga. I'm a really big fan of Dragon Ball. I am a decent fan of Dragon Ball Z. This one isn't like super in it for me, but at the same time it's still the Dragon Ball world. It's still the characters that I love. The illustrations are pretty good. It does feel a little bit flat, and the story is really about setting up the battle rather than developing the story at all, which I know there's a type of reader that likes that. I'm the type of reader that would really appreciate more story, and unfortunately Dragon Ball keeps getting that story erased out of it. I will keep reading it though, and it was fun though. It was really fun to jump back into this world. The next category was my oldest volume of manga, and that goes to the For Immigrants manga, A Japanese Experience in San Francisco, 1904 to 1924. This is by Henry Yoshitaka Kiyama, translated with an introduction by Frederick L. Schott. I really enjoyed this. This I think was intended to be written for sort of a local newspaper, and so there was a like serialized kind of experience of Japanese in San Francisco in these early dates, and it's written in a really unusual way in that it's both partially English and partially Japanese, so it was really intended for readers that were also immigrants to the States. So it wasn't intended for Japanese audience back home because there's a lot of English in it, and it definitely was not intended for English readers in the States. Handling of the text in this is really interesting. You know, the Japanese communications, like all of it is in English because it has to be translated for an English reader, but the communication that that was originally written in Japanese, of course, is this like really nice and formal, clean, clear English, and all of the English that's spoken by English nationals or American nationals is very kind of stilted and confusing, and it just sort of makes sense because as a Japanese speaker you would have understood this beautiful Japanese, and you know, anyone else who is speaking another language of course would sound kind of chilted and confusing and kind of an ugly language. So I really thought that was handled well, and I really enjoyed reading this. I thought that some of the situations were really awkward, but he just had so much humor, and I just really appreciated this comic, and I recommend it if you are interested in comics, especially if you're interested in early comics, if you're interested in like the immigrant experience, if you're interested in just sort of how people deal with each other. It was good. My next category was Yonkoma or 4-koma. That's the 4-panel comedy manga that's structured in a usually vertical layout, sort of like a newspaper comic strip. This one I think was hard for some of you because there aren't that many published in English or other languages. So I think a few of you had a hard time finding one of these, but there are more and more getting published, and that's why we included it. And it is such a unique experience to read Yonkoma over other types of manga because the story structure is so different. I ended up picking up Kini no Mosaic by Uehara, and I had fun with this. I really enjoyed this. I think this is my favorite Yonkoma so far. I don't normally like Yonkoma all that much. I find the comedy is really hard to understand. But this is essentially the story about an English girl, and she from England, and she moves to Japan and to be at the school, you know, as an exchange student with her friend who had been an exchange student in England. And so it's just sort of her experience, but she's so good at Japanese, and she's even better at being a Japanese person than her friend who had gone to England is. So it's really like, there's just a lot of really funny jokes in it, and it's just fun to read. Like, it was really entertaining and really cute. So yeah, I would highly recommend this one if you are interested in giving Yonkoma a try. I think this is a fun one to start with. The next title was Gods, Monsters, Demons, Other Supernatural Beings. That was the category. So I picked something familiar to myself. This is 3x3 Eyes by Yuzo Takada, House of Demons. This is an old Dark Horse publication, so it reads in the English reading direction. And this is essentially the story about Pi, who is the last of her species, who's this mythological being, and she basically wants to turn into a human, and she had met an archaeologist who said that he could help her, and he ends up dying, and so she goes to Japan to find his son, to get him to help her, and you know, adventure happens. It's quite dark, and it's just, but there's just something about it that I really love. Yuzo Takada is one of the very first Japanese mangaka that I ever was aware of, and so so for me this is like an important title. I'm not sure a lot of people would really like it, and it definitely has a very dark 90s style, which I don't think is super popular with a lot of people. The next title was a sports manga, and I ended up picking up Chihaya Furu, and this is by Yuki Soetsugu. This is actually a bilingual manga from Kodansha, Japan, and they publish manga for ESL students, and so they just publish like 1 or 2 volumes or 3 volumes of popular series for people who want to learn English. And so I ended up buying it because I really wanted to read this, and I don't have any bilingual manga, so that would be fun. I think Kodansha here has this title, but in digital, and if digital is at all within your grasp or you're at all interested in it, please go and read this manga. It is so good. It is basically about 3 friends who become interested in karuta, which is a sort of a slapjack game where you have to memorize poetry, and when you hear the poem you have to be the fastest at slapping it out of the kind of the playing area. It's not a very familiar concept to a Western audience except for, you know, card games, but these kids are so wrapped up in this game that they want to become professionals, and it's just such a weird thing that you would become professionals, but I guess there are professional poker players, so maybe it's a similar thing to that. But anyway, it's good. It's got really good character development, and it's really got a good start to a series, and it just seems like it's going to be a really great story. Plus it's a josei sports manga, which I think this is the first josei, like for adult women, sports manga I've ever read, and it was great. And I'm really glad I have volume 2 in this, and unfortunately they didn't make any more bilingual volumes in the series, so hopefully Kodansha will publish these in English in paper form soon, because I don't do digital. The next was my Harem, or Reverse Harem. I picked up That Wolf Boy Is Mine. This is something I have read before by Yoko Nogiri, and it's about a girl who goes to a new school, and she's just sort of trying to escape kind of student perceptions of what type of girl she is, and she ends up meeting a boy, and that's pretty much it, and then ends up meeting more boys because it's a reverse harem title. I'm not going to tell you more than that because you're supposed to kind of be sort of surprised, I think, by this title, but it's really cute and fun. The next was a character that transforms, so I ended up picking a magical girl series, which is Peachy Peachy Peach, Mermaid Melody. This mermaid transforms a couple of different ways, because she's originally a mermaid. She transforms into a human, and she also transforms into like a singing idol magical girl. Really weird. I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but it's actually a good story, and for a magical girl series it kind of seems a little bit different, and it takes a lot of its mythology and its ideas from the Little Mermaid tale. So if you are interested in kind of retellings, this one does it in a different way. Plus the bad guy is Gact, who's a like visual kei singer, and that just is like the greatest thing ever. So I had really a lot of fun reading this. Unfortunately I only have the first volume, but I will be picking up more if I see it anywhere sometime. Series 13, title 13 was to read a title you borrowed. I actually ended up only reading titles I borrowed on the Monday? On Monday, my sister and I went to the library and we picked up an armload of titles, everything that I had placed on hold, and that's all I read were titles from the library on Monday. Unfortunately, I know a lot of people can't do that, but I have a great library system that has a ton of manga, so really, really grateful because I have lots to choose from, and I went and picked up like 18 more titles today, so Yeah, anyway, I ended up reading number 6, volume 1 by Atsuko Asano and Hinoki Kino. This was a really fun kind of thriller, sort of futuristic story, and it really reminded me of Gattaca in a way, if you've seen the movie Gattaca. This is basically about a society where everything is perfect, or is it really? And this is a story about a boy who is kind of the elite, and he ends up rescuing another boy who is part of, I think, like the prison system. I can't remember exactly. And because of this incident, he and his family are basically set out of this elite system, and they are impoverished just because of this one act. So now the government is sort of after him. And adventure begins. It's just sort of like the very beginning, but I think it's got an interesting little start to it. So I'm definitely interested in picking up more. It seems like a fun story. The next challenge was to read something that was new to you. I picked up Yukiko Spinach by Frederick Boilet. This is part of the Nouvelle Manga movement, but this basically is a autobiography about the author and his short affair with Yukiko. And it's really odd, and I'm not entirely sure what I'm supposed to think about it. I thought that it was a little bit, I don't know, self-aggrandizing, or like, I don't know, it just felt like it went just slightly too far into the trying to be artistic, that it just felt kind of flat to me. So I'm interested in reading more from this author, but as well as more just from this movement in general, just to find out more about it. But I didn't particularly care for this. I'm still kind of on the fence about what I think about it, though. The next category was read a single volume, so I ended up picking up Kamikaze Girls by Novella Takemoto and Yukio Kanesada. This I ended up swapping out for something else because it's short and I was running out of time. This is basically the story about a girl who is part of a biker gang and a girl who is a loli, or who likes to wear Lolita fashion. And they become friends. They couldn't be any more different, but they're actually exactly the same type of person. They're both very strong type people. And they end up forming this like really nice, unlikely friendship, and it's just like a delightful short little story. I highly recommend it. There's no real romance in this manga, like there's some heartbreak, but there isn't actual romance. It's more about this two girls and their friendship, and it's really nice. The next challenge was a volume of short stories, so another one that I swapped out because I was going to read something much larger. This is Dissolving Classroom by Junji Ito, and this was disgusting. It was so gross. It's basically about people dissolving. I'm going to leave it at that because there isn't a lot to this story. But every single incident, like, it does seem like it could potentially be repetitive, but every single incident builds on the knowledge that you already have of what is supposed to happen, and so you anticipate it occurring, and it even makes it more and more just foul. It's disgusting, and I really, really enjoyed it. I love Junji Ito. His artwork is beautiful, and I think his storytelling is great. And yeah, this is really gross out horror though, and this has certainly turned my stomach, so yeah, beware of that. The next challenge is to read a manga that the title starts with the same letter as your name. My name is Laura, so I read Let's Dance a Waltz by Natsumi Ando. This is a 3-volume series about ballroom dance, and it was really cute. It's about a girl who just doesn't like herself and she wants to change, and she just doesn't like being afraid all the time, and so she finds a ballroom and she decides, you know, this is her thing that she's going to use to change. And so it's really just about her changing. And but there's also, of course, the boy character who also has to have some kind of change of heart about ballroom. He has some issues as well. That is not in this volume though. So I really enjoyed it. 3 volumes is probably going to be just long enough, and it seems like it's going to be a cute series. The next challenge was to read a manga set in another country, so I ended up picking up Gun Blaze West by Nobuhiro Watsuki. If you recognize the name, it's because he is the same author as Rurouni Kenshin. So this is a 3-volume manga about a boy who wants to basically become a gunslinger, and so he lives in Illinois, and when he grows up he wants to be a gunslinger, and he hears from someone else about this place called Gun Blaze West, where he needs to go to become this thing. It's sort of a similar plot start to One Piece, or a little bit plot start to Hunter x Hunter. You know, he has this adventure that he needs to go on. It's only 3 volumes long. It seems like a fun kind of story, and it's set in an unusual place for a battle manga or adventure manga. So that also is kind of entertaining. So yeah, probably will be keeping on reading this for a bit. The next challenge was to read a mecha or mech or robotic or mechanization or anything that just seems like robots, whatever. I ended up picking up Cyborg 009 or 009, the manga by Shotaro Ishinomori. I really enjoyed this. This is basically about 9 sort of misfits. They're all from different cultures, and they all have been kidnapped. They're all transformed with new kind of robotic parts. Evil organization who wants to start a world war. So each different person is of course experimented on, so each person has sort of like a different skill, except for 009 has all of the skills. And so they all kind of revolt to the beginning of this manga and go off on their own, and now they're going to, I'm assuming, save the world or have some adventure or try to do something good. The cultural characterization of these might be quite shocking, and there is a little bit of a like warning, like try not to get too offended by some of the representation. Like there is an African character in here, there is an indigenous character in here, and a Chinese character who's very kind of meanly represented, but at the same time they're represented with these characters, but they're also represented as being intelligent and compassionate. So this is supposed to be Ishinomori's sort of like comment on the 60s and kind of what was going on in the world, and I thought it was also just like really fun to read, and I'm really interested in reading more of this, and hopefully I can get my hands on a few more volumes. The next challenge was to read a manga with a female lead, so I read Dawn of the Arcana by Toma. This one, the one thing that I remember the most about this is that she is called Yona, which is the same as Yona of the Dawn, and Yona of the Dawn also has sort of reddish hair. And this one is called Dawn of the Arcana, so they both have Dawn in the title, so I'm wondering if the red hair thing and the name Yona and the word Dawn have some intrinsic link in Japanese that I'm unaware of, because that would be great. And but I don't know. It's just that it was seeing it as sort of coincidental. This is basically the story about a girl who has red hair, which is considered like a sign of evil or poverty or something. I can't remember exactly. And she is sold. She's a princess. She's sold to the kind of opposing country as their bride to sort of mend ties and just basically to be the slave of her husband, but she is quite strong-willed and she is willing to set him in his place, and it actually turns out that he seems to be quite charmed by that. So I'm assuming there's some like warring going on. It does look like it's got kind of a French medieval type look to it. Maybe she's a little bit of a Joan of Arc character. I'm not entirely sure. And I don't remember too much about it again, and I've only just read it a few days ago. And this is the second time I've read it, so I don't remember it wasn't bad at all. It's not terribly memorable for me. The next challenge was to read 3 volumes in the same series in a row. So I read volumes 1, 2, 3 of Bunny Drop by Yumi Unita. It's the story about a little girl who is sort of orphaned after her father passes away, but he's quite elderly, and he's sort of like the patriarch of this family, who were unaware of her existence until this moment, and of course now nobody wants to take her in, because what does that look like on the family? And so his grandson, who's like in his 30s, says like, how could you be so cruel, and ends up taking her in and becoming her guardian. So it's basically the story about how he learns to take care of this little girl and how they kind of grow to become a family. So far that's what's happening, but it's really, really good, and I was totally digging it, and I definitely would have read more of it if I wasn't reading other things for this readathon. So this one I definitely want to get back to soon. The next challenge was Slice of Life, and then of course I just have another volume of Bunny Drop because I can use it for this challenge. My next challenge was LGBTQ plus character, so I ended up picking up Kase-san and Morning Glories by Hiromi Takashima. This is another one from my library. This is a Yuri manga. It's sort of a pure love type story about just two high school girls, and it was so cute. Definitely, of my very small experience with Yuri manga, this is my favorite thing that I've read so far. It was totally adorable. There's another one that's coming out, Kase-san, I think, and Bento or something is already out, and then there's another one that's coming out. So I will definitely be checking those out because I thought this was totally adorable. The next one that I picked up was for my comedy, and that was Lupin the Third by Monkey Punch. I didn't love this, and I was expecting to, and that was really kind of a disappointment. I really loved the anime, or at least I did back then, but I was finding that a lot of the stories, like they're really kind of short stories, and it's hard to tell from one story to the next when the story ends or when its story starts, and I think that's more the translation problem than it is about the story problem, so I'm going to leave it at that. But at the same time, all the stories, like one of the big punchlines to the story is that a lady normally gets assaulted, and that's not comedy, and that's not okay with me, so I was having a hard time with that. Like, I know he's a ladies' man, but yeah, the sexual assault in this is a little bit excessive, to say the least. And then the last thing that I picked up was my not manga category, and I ended up reading Grandfather in the Moon by Stephanie Lapointe and Roger. And it was beautifully illustrated. It's just got these very quiet illustrations in this very muted palette. And it's mostly just sort of about her grandpa, and then about becoming a astronaut and something. I'm not entirely sure what ended up happening. I think it was more, it feels very dreamy, and I'm not entirely sure if I'm supposed to get the point. And it did feel very, of course, sad. Yeah, there's definite sadness in this manga, but it was beautiful to look at, and felt very poetic. So yeah, and another one that I borrowed from the library, of course. And so then on top of that, I read 3 extra manga. 2 of them were from the library. I was actually going to pick up another one because I had been recommended one more title to read, but I just ran out of time, so I ended up picking up Pandora Hearts by Jun Mochizuki, which was my least favorite title for the week. I just didn't get it, or I just didn't like it. It had way too much going on. It was drawing from too many different corners of European kind of storytelling, and so different mythologies, and I think it was trying too hard to mix them together, so I didn't think it was very successful. I know a lot of people like this one, but it was just way too much for me. And then I read Strobe Edge by Io Sakisaki, or Sakisaka. I have read this before, and I had just had to read the back because I didn't remember it at all. Like, I barely even remember that I read it. It's just not memorable. It's just, I flipped through it too because I was like, I don't remember this. It's about a girl, and she's quite shy and cute, and then there's the most popular kind of boy, I think, and they end up having a connection because they keep seeing each other on the train. I can't even remember. I did originally rate it 2 out of 5 stars. I changed my rating this time to 3 out of 5 stars, but because I can't remember it at all, I might change it back down to 2. Yeah, my memory is not being jogged at all from the description on the back and from flipping through it, so this one is not memorable. I suspect it's a pretty average shoujo manga. And then the greatest thing that I read, which I did not count for any category because it came in the mail during the week, is Itazura na Kiss Volume 12 by Karutada. The greatest manga, shoujo manga ever. yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I talked about this in my top 10 shoujo manga. This is basically the story about two characters from high school all the way until their adult life, going through college and then, you know, progressing in their relationship. It's so cute and fun, and this is the final volume. There should have been more, but the author passed away just at this point, and it's sad. And I'm having feelings about it, so I can't talk about it anymore now. But it's wonderful and beautiful, and if you have a chance to pick it up, please do. I think volume 11 and 12 are not available on Amazon, so if you were collecting this and you're like, how did you get volume 12? I bought this on Akira, which is the website that Junei Manga used to be sold on. I think they're still owned by Junei Manga, because that's what the label said when it came, but yeah, you can buy it off of their site. It's really expensive. Shipping is expensive unless you live in the States. But it absolutely had to be my collection. It's one of my absolute most favorite manga ever, and I love it. So that is what I ended up reading last week, a ton of manga. I had a lot of fun participating. I loved watching everybody else participate, and it was fun, and I'm really looking forward to doing it again. I'm not sure if you're aware, but Jen and I are both hosting giveaways on our channels. Basically, we had asked you to tell us 5 titles that you would read in order to achieve bingo, and we ended up drawing names already, so I'm not going to show you that process. And the winner for the Sailor Moon manga and the Sailor Moon thermos is Otaku Unleashed. So congratulations. I will have already contacted you by the time this video goes up, but please make sure that you send me your mailing address so that I can get that out to you as soon as possible. If you're interested in who won Jen's, you'll have to wait until she posts her video, and she will tell you then who won her Detective Conan stuff. Jen and I were also hosting a giveaway on Twitter and Instagram, so if you have participated in our manga hunt, we entered your name into a draw to win a box of manga related treasure, kind of weeby treasure, just treasure. Stuff, a box of stuff, and we haven't packed it yet, so I'm not going to show it to you. I think you can just wait for the surprise when it arrives. So the person who won that is Tony Lynn. She also has a channel here, as well as was entering her pictures on Twitter. So thank you so much for participating in that. We really had fun seeing everyone's findings of pictures, and we will get that out to you. Just make sure that you send us your mailing address soon so we can do that ASAP. Anyway, thank you so much for participating. Thank you for all your support, for all your fun during the last week. We really, really enjoyed seeing everybody out on social media this week. If you participated in the readathon and you weren't on social media, you know, chatting with us or sharing pictures or whatever, please let us know that you participated in the description box below. We'd love to just like find out what you read or find out that you participated. What did you think? Would you like to participate again in the future? Would you like to participate for the first time in the future? Just let us know down below. We'd love to chat with you. Anyway, thank you so much for watching my video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.